I'm starting a new 200 amp service upgrade. I'm here in Wall Township, and my customer here actually found me on YouTube. Here's the 200 amp service. I am trying using this drone to do my first video here. So what we're gonna do today is drive a couple ground rods, and then once the ground rods are driven, we'll run our grounding electrode conductor, and we're gonna be replacing the 200 amp riser all the way up to where it is here underneath that soffit. And this job should be pretty cut and dry. We're also gonna run the water ground over to the water main. Both of these ground rods gotta be at least 6 foot apart from each other. I'll put the code section up on the screen as I'm editing this video.
Both ground rods are installed 6 feet apart as required by section 250 TAC 53A3, which is that last sentence at the bottom of this paragraph here. Must be spaced 6 feet apart.
You might ask yourself, well, what do ground rods actually do? Well, the ground rods provide a path for transient voltages and over voltages caused by lightning and surges on the grid to ground. It's what we officially call grounding. And you might also ask yourself, why do you need 2 of them, not just 1? Well, for years it was just 1. The reason why they added 2 is what we're told is with 2 of these ground rods, you have less resistance. So the lesser resistance, the more current can flow to ground. That's the principle behind having 2 ground rods instead of 1. Okay, so our first ground rod is right here, and our second ground rod is right here. Part of this job also, we're going to be installing automatic transfer switch with the interlock. This is going to sit right beside the new meter main right here on the house. And we'll probably come through the rim joist down here with a piece of conduit into the bottom of the inlet box. And the reason why we call this an inlet is because instead of having the outlet, you'll see the prongs are sticking out. So you have a female cord body going into the male inlet. Okay, so here's the service that we're upgrading. And I believe this one was last installed in 1976 or 78. You can tell by this inspection sticker. A lot of them down here in southern Monmouth County are like that. Looks like most of the circuits are labeled, so we will number them before we take them out. But right now we have, looks like 24 different circuits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 24 circuits. We're going to be putting in a 40 circuit panel with the capacity for 80 complete circuits in this panel. Comes with surge protection, and we're going to try to leave this as is. We could take this board off at some point so we can get behind and get rid of this pegboard. This is the main water pipe. This copper pipe goes in the ground for more than 10 feet. We're assuming that it hasn't been changed or upgraded. We're going to use some emery cloth right here to clean up this copper water pipe to get a nice clamp. We're going to do it from the supply side to the customer side, the jumper, in case they ever take this meter out. We still have our grounding electrode connection. And then we're going to come down the wall right here with some straps to strap the grounding electrical conductor to the wall. And here you just want to get a nice contact to the copper water pipe here. And so this emery paper just shines it up. And we just call these water ground clamps. Basically, the teeth bite into the copper pipe here, make it a nice strong connection. You can see the teeth on there. Not too tight, but just tight enough to get a nice grip, especially on the pipe where it's stripped away, where it's clean from the emery cloth. Get a nice solid bond. And we'll strip away this number 2 after we clamp it to the wall. The reason why it's important to jump out to the other side of the pipe is because should this water meter be removed for whatever reason, well, then you will lose your ground. I had an inspector a long time ago tell me I had to hit the supply side first. And I had just gotten my license, and I said, boy, I never heard of that before. And I did it, but nowadays I would not do that because I don't see it written anywhere in the code that I have to hit the supply side first. Let me know in the comments what you think about that rule as far as hitting the supply side with the grounding electrical conductor first before the load side. I know it's not in the National Electric Code. Article 250 is not there. So if it's in the Uniform Construction Code, then I'm wrong. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. All right, so over here, when I came to look at this job, the guy said, what is this over here? And I said, gee, I don't know. You know what this is? This is the original service here. This board, I could tell, is where the service was at first. And the service was at the front of the house. I think they must have built a porch. I think that's what's out there. So they had to relocate the service. But this was definitely the original circuits in the house, just put into a junction box and extended over to where the panel is now. How do I know that? Because here's the old entrance, service entrance pipe. Right there. That's it. These conductors are taped off. They're not live, I hope. And this was the original location of the service. Right next to the water main, next to the water heater. And of course they have a boiler here as well with 2 zones of heating. And here the work has already been done for me. The clamps are there. So, and this copper is pretty new. I think we're just going to leave it and just re-jump it with the number 2 aluminum. Supply side connection across the meter to the customer side. use the emery cloth to clean up the copper, get a nice contact, strap it upside the wall. Not allowed to strap it to the copper water pipe, that's a violation. We went all the way back across the basement. This will be going outside. We'll connect this to the main disconnect on the outside tomorrow when we install it. The next step here is I'm going to label all the circuits in here with the numbers, with this numbers book. So identifying the circuits tomorrow will be a lot simpler at the end of the day. All right, so something that is often common when I find these old panels, right? You see the rust right here. And you say, well, gee, how the hell does that happen? I'll show you exactly how that happens. If you look right up above from where the service entrance conductors enter this enclosure is right here. All right, and you could see, well, hopefully maybe you can't see, but I could tell that there's no sealant in that entrance. So when the warm air in the wintertime, reaches the cold air outside, in the outside portion of the service, condensation forms. And when the condensation forms, it's going to drip down from this nipple where it enters, where the condensation is happening, straight down into this puddle down at the bottom here, and then you see this rust. As far as the equipment goes, it's kind of shot. It's very rusted. We're not going to get rid of that right now. This is put in almost over 40 years ago, so it's held up pretty nice. Cutler hammer, the CH line or the tan handle circuit breaker is very good circuit breaker for sure. We're going to put in another Cutler hammer panel. Looks like we have a copper bus. We can see right underneath the main breaker here, the copper bus feeding down. It's completely full, so there's no more room, so I can't exactly see the copper bus, but we'll definitely see that tomorrow. I just wanted to point out that problem right there as far as not sealing the entrance and the damage that it can do. Again, it's required by the code that we seal up that particular entrance, and obviously you know why. Okay, so some of you might want to know what these numbers are on the circuit breaker other than where it says 200 amps. And the number you'll see here is the interrupting capacity number, which is 25,000 amps. Okay, 25 kA. So that's kiloamps, 25,000 amps. What that means is that rating on this main breaker right here needs to be able to be more than the available interrupt current coming from the utility company. Up on that pole right there, there's an impedance rating that gives us our interrupt amperage rating. And that interrupt amperage rating in most residential areas is 10,000 amps. Or interrupt current is 10,000 amps. Why is this important? Because if we had a circuit breaker less than 10,000 available interrupt current amps, then what could happen is on a short circuit or a ground fault on the service equipment, that surge of current is going to go through that circuit breaker. It's going to open up the circuit breaker, but it's also going to blow it off out of the enclosure and blow up. So we need to have the interrupt current rating of our main breaker. We need to have that larger than the available interrupt current coming from our service up on the pole. If you find that interesting or helpful, let me know in the comments if you have any additional questions, or if you didn't know that and that was very helpful for you to learn what that number actually meant. So I'm getting ready to install the inlet box for the portable generator wiring, and because the only way into the basement is down so low, that doesn't make any sense to put the inlet down there. What we want to do is we want to put the inlet somewhere up here, maybe like 4 feet above the ground. This way, when there's an emergency, it might be 3 feet of snow, it might be 4 feet of snow. We don't want to have the inlet box in the snow, so that's why we're going to come into the bottom with some PVC. I'm going to use this little corner bracket right here to go in the wall, and then we'll stub out inside the basement with some flex, and then we'll transition from the rigid PVC to the flex and go into the panel that way. When at all possible, I like to use a hole saw just large enough to make around this 3/4 inch fitting. Okay, and so I keep this in my 3/4 inch PVC box, and it goes real nice when I want to insert this in the wall. Put a little duct seal and some caulk around that, make that air watertight, and we'll be good to go. I think I have my male adapter here, but I think I'm going to put it on later once I have the flex attached to the female adapter. But in the meantime, I'll definitely glue this on to my elbow here just to keep it in place. I'm doing the PVC here. I try to make it as neat as possible. So if I can keep this PVC applicator here as close as I can to the bottle without spilling all over the place, I'll do that, and I'll just run it across the applicator just like that. Spin it around. And of course, if you can, you want to twist it around so that all sides adhere to the fitting. Now this side will go inside the hole that I'm about to drill, and then we'll cut it inside if we have to, or I'll cut it before I put it in permanently, and then we'll attach the female adapter and then the flex to that. Always make sure you put the cover on the PVC glue. When I was in my younger days, I didn't put this cover on. I set it down on a ladder rung, and I actually hit it by accident, and it flipped up, affecting both my eyes. So the PVC glue was in my eyes because I wasn't wearing safety glasses. It got in there. I was on disability for about a month. That was over 30 years ago. It's something I'll never do again, and I'm trying to prevent you from having that happen to you. Now we got a nice clean hole there going in above where the panel is. Okay, so there's the nipple sticking out, and the idea is to be able to slip the female adapter onto that, and we can flex either onto the top or to the side with our portable generator wiring. Here I'm just taking a female adapter and tying it onto my flex connector here. This side will slide onto the conduit inside the PVC, and this will attach to the flex. And then we've gone from rigid to flexible with just two small adapters here. Boom, just like that. Now I'm going to get some glue. We'll take the ladder. We'll put that on down in the basement real quick. So you got to make sure that this top piece that slides in over the top can slide in. So I had this little reveal in my way. So I had to cut out the connector and lower it just a little bit just so I can get that cover on. And then I got to get it back off to do the wiring when I pull the wire, probably tomorrow. And of course the last step is to make sure it's weather tight. So I'm going to go ahead and put this duct seal around the opening. Just like that. All right. Now we're all set. Looking good, right? I was wondering what this was. This was probably a piece of cable wire that was attached that came undone, but it was embedded in the paint when they painted. Such like this. Most of this stuff I'm gonna have to restrap. As you can see, they've connected with tie wraps a bunch of the communications, television, and telephone data lines. It's a violation to attach to the mast. You're not supposed to do that. The electrician should know that, but the problem is the technician for the cable television and the telephone company, they don't know that. So that's what it is. And then you'll see this is a piece of rigid right here. This will be attached to our new bonding enclosure on the outside of the house as required by 250 TAC 94. And we'll be doing similar installation here with the service entrance cable. There's no duct seal around that, which is very strange. Very rare. People forget to put the duct seal in. But we'll find out when we open this up tomorrow how much water and rust is actually inside that enclosure because of that. We're also going to have to make this hole down here a little bit bigger. I'll be using my SDS Max to make a core hole through there, and then we're going to come out of the bottom of our meter main, and when we do that, we're going to come out with a piece of 2-inch PVC, and we're going to put an LB into the back of the panel the way they have it now. That's going to be the easiest way to go in and out from the outside to the inside on this service upgrade.
This was the first job I brought, actually the second job, but the first job I really used the DJI Neo drone to get some footage, and all I'm doing here is just cutting out this service. I thought this would be a very interesting angle for my viewers to see. Sometimes I wear the camera on my head so you can see me doing this job here. Very important to tape off those live ends temporarily until at the end of the day when we bug back in. So this was the first time I used it. I used the DJI Fly app to set the Neo in position here up by where the service connection is. And once I was done, I get down off the ladder and I bring it back down.
Pretty good shape, and no water got in there. I'm real surprised. Like I said, there's no duct seal up here, but we're in good shape. Alright, so here obviously we've kicked some butt here. I've removed all of these branch circuits. They're all numbered as you saw yesterday. Got my LED light on, that's why that flashing pulse is going on. So what we're going to do now is I'm probably going to need to make this hole just a little bit bigger. Got to make it a little bit bigger because I got to get a piece of 2-inch PVC in there. And I want to get this piece in here now before I mount the board down here so I can mount the disconnect and everything will line up just right. This might be big enough, we'll see. I might have to make a bigger hole outside. And the idea is to just come up with an LB right here, right into the bottom of the disconnect. How about that? Almost. Let's get her going. Alright, so the next step here is I'm going to drill an 1.25 inch hole right in the middle of both of these pieces of 2x6 pressure treated. These are going to go right up against the wall, but what I need to do is recess my lag bolt that's going to go into a shield. And so that's what I'm doing here with this size bit. This will get the nut driver in, or the socket set that I'm going to use to attach to the wall, and so that it's recessed, and then the 3/4 inch mounting board will go right over this and you won't even see this. Now I just need to drill a 1/2 inch hole so the lag can fit through. And then we can mark on the wall where to drill our 5-inch hole for the lag. See, what happens is these are like plastic anchors, but when you put these in here, you start it up, watch what happens. The shield actually opens up. See a little wedge in there? So it's up inside the hole, 5/8 hole that we're going to drill through the concrete, and that's what holds it in there. Pressure. Beautiful system. Here I'm just putting the screw in. I'll put the anchor on the other side here. Okay. And then we'll push this into the hole. That's not going anywhere. Now I know that the other one is approximately the same height. I'm going to put that right here, right next to it. The same height. When I cut these pieces of 2x6 here, I cut them a little bit shorter than the full 48 inches of the board. So these are 44 inches, so I got a little play on the top, a little play on the bottom, without seeing the board, without seeing the mounting boards after I put the plywood up. That's all we need. This board's gonna stay on here. Now we can get the piece of plywood, and then we'll drill a hole to mark it. We'll do the hole saw, and then we'll be able to mount the panel. All right, now I'm gonna go outside and take a long skinny drill bit, drill through that hole so I know where the center is for my conduit to come into the back of the panel. And then we're gonna come up into the upper left-hand corner of that panel with the conduit. All right, so now I've drilled my pilot hole. Whew. All right, so I can't get the bands on this. I'm gonna have to use the hacksaw here. Cut this off. Glue this up. Boom. That's the bottom right there. Beautiful. I have to pull this away, get the disconnect out. All right, just like that, yep. That's the one. All right, so we're gonna put in 5 of them. I got 5 openings. Here's the first one that came out. Came out real nice, right with the lag right there. This thing's up about 6 feet tall. Up and out of the way. All my wires are out of the way. Ducks on here. Yep. Nice and sturdy AF, right? All right. This thing ain't going anywhere now, huh? Nice and straight. I'm very proud of this one. This one came out really, really nice. All right, so now when we have this disconnect, you got this special hub. The hub is actually written on the box, the style. Make sure this is the right, because if you get the wrong one, we're really in trouble then. And all right, so that's where it's going to go on. It's a tight spot here. I don't have my ladder here. I got this extension ladder. I'm going to try to work off of it. See how this goes. The harbor was his home. Brandy walks through silent town. Sit Brandy. You're a fine girl.
I would guess that Keynote has a love-hate relationship with that song. How often do you have to be serenaded by some bozo? Because of Looking Glass and their successful albums. Hey, what's going on, Steve Johnson?
Okay, here's what I use. This is a number 4 aluminum grounding electroconductor, and I can't terminate on this bus because it's too big. Actually, the number 4 got on there, so the number 2 might fit. But what I'm going to show you is I use this thing right here. It's a fork. It's a lug. Alrighty. So I'm going to terminate inside that lug there, and then I'm going to terminate the fork on the terminals, like just like that. So there it is after it's been terminated. Real simple. And the only reason why I didn't go up here to this lug that's already built in is because I was just barely made it. And you saw what happens when you don't do this. So now we're going to fill this up with some duct seal the best we can to prevent that warm air from eating the cold air. And we're just going to stuff this in here. Duct seal is not very expensive, so try to close it up the best you can here. All right, we're going to set all this duct seal in here. So while I was working outside, I had to bring my feeders in. So the only thing you missed down here was connecting the L1 and L2, my neutral and my ground. We're going to remove this bonding jumper real quick, and then I just put in this terminal strip here to isolate my grounds and neutrals. Got to have a separate ground bar for that, and when you do that, you get rid of the main bonding jumper. And I had a teacher one time just tell me not to ever leave it inside the panel. Some knucklehead might come back and say, hey, you forgot this, and then put it in. So don't put it back in the panel. That's the way I've always worked.
Staying on the ball, controlling the strike zone, and when you see majority of right-handed pitchers, you know you're going to have a good year when that success rate's there. That's the one hole inside that ball is supposed to break. As a right-handed hitter, when it backs up, it locks you up. The breaking ball that does not break. Look at how it spins backwards. That is a pitcher. 2-2, Springer rolls into short for Volpe. 2-2 down here for the ball. Starting to pitch a lot better towards the end of the regular season. 6 straight scoreless outings.
Okay, so it's been a long day, but I just bugged in and reconnected to the power. As you can see up there, we're all set up here. I'm about to measure my voltage at the meter.
1,655. Wow. Not a surprise, right? No. That's the sound of every interior detail refined. And that's the sound of Pro all-wheel drive. All-new IQ, the all-new
Each service, a technician is just a phone call away, ready to troubleshoot and fix any equipment issues anytime.
Let's go downstairs
30 days to pay your invoice. Sloman
and
proudly serves the
check our load side here. Everything's back online. I tell my customers power will be back on by 6 o'clock, and I work my ass off to get there, and it's I don't know, 5 after 6. So okay, so we got our ground rods properly spaced 6 feet apart from each other, because these supplement the copper water pipe grounding electrode I should say. And code is kind of quiet on how deep we need to make this trench, but we do need to make it so that it stays buried. So obviously we just go from the main disconnect here down behind that conduit. We hit the bonding bridge terminal there for all our grounding electrodes on the exterior for that ground wire for the telephone service. And then we come from one ground rod to the next ground rod, and now we'll bury it up. And next stop is to start concreting the old foundation that I made a little bit bigger, and we'll get that airtight with some hydraulic concrete there. idea is that it's fully seated in there around that conduit, so water won't get in there. Not bad, pretty good. Nice and clean. Well, as clean as could be expected. Let's go get a 90-degree connector. Great, so as you can see, obviously this 90-degree connector is going to look a lot nicer coming in. We got a little extra slack up there in case we need it later on for whatever reason. Not sure why. And we get that lock nut on. It's a tight spot right there, a tight squeeze. So I got to move some of those conductors out of the way just so I can get my fat fingers in there to tighten these lock nuts. God bless me with these giant fat fingers, and sometimes those lock nuts can be a major pain in the neck, especially on older cables and older connectors. Sometimes they're finer threads, it can be a pain in the neck. This one went pretty smooth on this 90-degree, 3/4 inch liquid tight, flexible, non-metallic conduit, 90-degree connector, which is right here. Okay, so as you can see here, the yellow and blue conductor attached to this 30 amp circuit breaker that is off. The idea of the interlock is so that with this 30 amp circuit breaker does not supply power to the inlet outside. All right, the interlock, you won't be able to turn this on unless the main breaker is off. This way you won't backfeed the panel from the generator. That's the whole purpose of the interlock. Okay, so this is the listed interlock for this panel that we're going to put in. You can't just put in any other interlock that you want. It's got to be listed to be able to do this. This is the BRP MIK CSR. It's for the plug-on neutral load center, which is what we put in. It's good for a generator interlock kit for 150 amp to 225 amps indoor panel. So this is the one we're going to be using. All 4 holes are connected with this mechanical interlock. And this, again, this is the one that's listed for this panel, which is also very, very important. And you put the directions right here. Okay, so now that the interlock is in, you see, we cannot raise this up. We cannot turn on the 30 amp circuit breaker. All right, if we can't raise this up, we'd have to turn off the main, then we could slide up the interlock to turn on the generator breaker. So this interlock is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And here's our whole house surge protection, and then we labeled all the circuits before we left on Saturday. And here's the directions. A lot of times you put this stuff in, and we're going to do a walkthrough once I'm done here with the owner to show him how this works. We're also going to label some of the 240 volt circuits that we cannot use with the portable generator. And we'll just put some orange. I'll put an orange label here on this double pole dining room. I think we're going to change this though to a single pole receptacle at some point,
or a 120 volt circuit rather. So really, this double pole 40 I think was repurposed in the kitchen. That's what it said on this. It was disconnected, but now you can reuse it. And of course the clothes dryer will mark with the orange labels so that they know not to use this with the portable generator. Okay, so I finally finished up here in Wall. Truth be told, I was here on Saturday upgrading the service, and I just ran out of time. So I didn't finish. I had a couple more things to do here today, including doing the cement around the section that goes from the outside into the back of the panel. I had to come back and concrete or fill in the gaps there. So I did that today. We completed the portable generator wiring today, and then I had to put a couple more straps on the riser cable because I just ran out of daylight and I was up there, I was struggling. I had to do some pilot holes, and I was just up against it that day. So I had to come back and straighten that out. I did that today. We're all set. Now I'm just gonna wait for my customer to come down. We're gonna walk through the portable generator wiring, and then we'll be all set.